The sun dips below the horizon, casting long, jagged shadows across the suburban street you've called home for a decade. You know the rhythm of this place. You know the guy in the blue sedan leaves at exactly 7 every morning, and the teenager 3 doors down practices his drums until the walls hum. You think you know these people. You believe that if a sudden systemic collapse hits, a total grid-down scenario where the lights vanish and grocery shelves turn to dust, you'll emerge into a community of neighbors bound by mutual survival. You're probably wrong. The truth about human behavior under extreme pressure isn't found in the tactical fantasies sold by influencers. It's found in the quiet, desperate math of the 30-minute rule. Consider the geography of your own home. You've spent thousands on steel plating, high-end optics, and enough freeze-dried rations to survive an apocalypse. You've reinforced the doors. You've secured the perimeter. You've convinced yourself that your house is a fortress. But there's a silent, creeping reality that no amount of armor can stop. Precisely 30 minutes after the grid collapses and the realization sets in that help isn't coming, the social contract doesn't just fray, it evaporates. It happens in the grocery store when the registers go dark. It happens at the gas station when the pumps stop mid-flow. And it happens right in your own cul-de-sac when the realization hits that your neighbor's pantry is empty, and yours, by comparison, looks like a treasure chest. The 30-minute rule dictates that the proximity of your home to those who have failed to prepare is the single greatest variable in your survival. You aren't just protecting yourself from some hypothetical roaming gang from the city, you're protecting your family from the father across the street who just watched his children cry because there's no milk. To him, your home is no longer just a residence, it's the only remaining solution to his immediate, agonizing problem. The mistake most people make is viewing the collapse as a distant event. They treat survival as an accumulation of gear. They buy the tactical vests, the heavy-duty boots, and the high-lumen flashlights, believing that when the moment arrives, they'll be the ones patrolling the streets with authority. They forget the fundamental law of human psychology under scarcity. In the first 30 minutes, the neighborly smile you've seen for years will be replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. And right now, you might be broadcasting your preparedness through everything you do. Every time you bring home bulk supplies in plain view, every time you install visible security cameras that blink with a red neon warning, you're drafting an invitation. You're painting a target on your front door. The gray man theory isn't about hiding in the bushes, it's about being so terrifyingly unremarkable that no one even considers you a person of interest when the desperation begins to mount. Think about the sound of your own home at night. If you're the only house on the block powered by a generator, while the rest of the street is plunged into absolute suffocating darkness, you've just alerted every person within a 3-block radius that you have fuel, you have energy, and you have resources. You've effectively declared yourself the neighborhood king, a title that carries a death sentence. The 30-minute rule is unforgiving because it relies on the speed of human desperation. It's the time it takes for panic to transition into predatory behavior. Before the first hour is up, the social fabric is ripped apart. Your neighbor, the one you shared beers with last weekend, is suddenly faced with a primal choice. Does he watch his own family suffer, or does he breach your perimeter to take what he needs? The 30-minute window is the exact moment his morality shifts from communal to individualistic. If you're visible, you're a target. If you're a target, you're a memory. We need to discuss the reality of the post-collapse landscape. Most preppers spend their energy focusing on external threats, like looters or societal breakdown on a macro scale. They prepare for the boogeyman, but the real threat is the person who knows where you hide your spare key. It's the person who noticed you've been stockpiling water jugs in your garage for the past 6 months. Without realizing it, you've become a walking, talking anomaly in a neighborhood of normalcy. To survive the first 72 hours, you have to understand that the threat isn't just physical, it's informational. You're currently leaking information about your survival posture every single day. Your presence on social media, your shopping habits, even the way you maintain your property. It all tells a story about your readiness. In a crisis, that story becomes a treasure map for those who didn't prepare. You must become a ghost. You must blend so seamlessly into the background of your neighborhood that if someone were looking for resources, your home would be the last place they'd ever consider. The psychological shift in your neighbors will be jarring. It won't be a sudden, violent explosion of anger. It will be a slow, quiet realization of power dynamics. When the grid fails, the common denominators of society disappear, leaving only the raw, biological drive to exist. If your home stands out, you're creating a friction point you can't possibly defend forever. Even if you hold them off for the first night, you're now locked in a siege. And a siege isn't survival, it's a prolonged, painful exit. You don't want to be a master of home defense, you want to be a master of avoidance. Why engage a desperate neighbor in a firefight when you could have spent the previous months ensuring they had no idea you possessed anything worth fighting for? Tactical equipment is the final line of defense, but if you've reached that line, you've already failed the mission of survival. Consider the sensory environment of your home. If a person walks by your house, what do they smell? Is there the faint telltale scent of a cooking fire or generator exhaust? What do they hear? The muffled hum of an electronic device? What do they see? At night, is your home a beacon of light in a sea of shadow? Or is it indistinguishable from the rest of the silent dark structures on the street? These sensory details are the keys to your survival. The 30-minute rule dictates that the neighborhood will be scanning for opportunities almost immediately. If you aren't completely indistinguishable from the surrounding chaos, you're essentially signaling your location to everyone looking for a way to mitigate their own suffering. You must start training yourself and your family to live in a way that minimizes your signature. This means rethinking every aspect of your daily life, from the way you dispose of your trash to the way you interact with people who knock on your door. Many families believe they can rely on a neighborhood watch or a community defense pact. They talk about banding together when the time comes. This is a dangerous romantic fantasy. In the reality of a true grid down, long-term emergency, human alliances are incredibly fragile. They're based on the assumption that everyone has something to contribute and that everyone will remain calm. Once the 30-minute mark passes and the lack of resources begins to manifest as physical hunger or cold, those alliances will crumble. The guy who promised to stand guard with you will have his own family to prioritize. The community you think you know will devolve into isolated individuals looking for the path of least resistance. Relying on others during the first 72 hours is a gamble you cannot afford to take. You must be prepared to be entirely self-sufficient, all while maintaining the appearance of having nothing at all. You might be asking how to reconcile the need to be prepared with the need to be invisible. It's a paradox that defines the survivalist mindset. You store the supplies, but you never reveal the stockpile. You build the defenses, but you never make them visible. You train for the chaos, but you never act like a warrior in the eyes of the public. This is the gray man approach. It requires a complete detachment from the ego-driven aspect of survivalism. You don't need to show off your gear to prove you're ready. You don't need the validation of your neighbors. In fact, if they think you're as vulnerable and unprepared as they are, you've achieved the ultimate tactical advantage. You aren't a threat to them, and therefore, you aren't a target. You're simply another house on the street, struggling with the exact same uncertainty they are. This is the hard truth the mainstream survival industry refuses to tell you. They want you to buy more, to show off more, and to feel like a high-end operator. They're selling you a costume for a war you should be avoiding at all costs. The real work is quiet. It's the work of managing your signature, of becoming a ghost in your own home. It's the work of preparing your family to act with discretion, understanding that the first 72 hours aren't about heroics. They're about maintaining a low profile until the initial wave of chaos subsides. By the time the third day arrives, the people who were unprepared will have already made their moves and likely exhausted their options. If you've been invisible, you'll still be standing. Your supplies intact, your home undisturbed. You'll have outlasted the madness simply by refusing to participate in it. Think about the psychological toll of being a person who is constantly on guard. If you live in a state of hypervigilance, you'll burn out long before the real challenges even begin. The gray man theory allows you to conserve your mental energy. You aren't constantly scanning for threats because you've eliminated the reasons for threats to target you in the first place. It's not about how much ammo you have or how thick your steel doors are. It's about the intelligence of your behavior. It's about understanding the 30-minute rule and recognizing that the time after the grid goes down is a period of extreme social volatility. The systems providing our water, power, and food are far more fragile than the experts admit. When the infrastructure fails, the thin layer of civilization keeping our neighbors from becoming our primary concern will vanish. It's not a matter of if, but when. The path of the grey man is lonely, requiring a level of discipline few are willing to master. It requires you to stop listening to the loudest voices in the room and start facing the reality of the situation around you. As you look around your home tonight, consider what your neighbors see. Do they see someone projecting strength and inviting a challenge? Or do they see someone projecting normalcy and inviting safety? The goal is to be the person who fades into the background, the one whose home is passed over because there's absolutely nothing to suggest it holds the answers to anyone's problems. When the lights go out, the silence that follows will be heavy. It will be the sound of a million people suddenly realizing the world they knew is gone. In that silence, your behavior will be your greatest asset or your greatest liability. Master the intelligence of survival. The road ahead is uncertain, but if you do this right, the world will never even know you're there. If you're serious about mastering the art of being invisible in an age of chaos and protecting your loved ones from the inevitable, subscribe to Survive 72 today. Join a community that values reality over fear. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and above all, stay invisible.